So, when you think about a serious electrical problem, what comes to mind? Probably a big lightning strike, right? Or maybe a massive power surge. But honestly, the real dangers, the ones that cause the most fires, they start way smaller. We're talking about these tiny little habits, things we might do without even thinking twice, that are quietly setting up a disaster right inside our walls.
And you know what? I'd be willing to bet that at least one of these silent killers is probably hiding in your home right now. So, the big question is, can you spot them before it's too late? Well, let's find out.
Okay, let's dive right into our first bad habit. This is one I see all the time, especially with folks doing a bit of DIY work. It seems like such a small thing, but trust me, it can create a literal ticking time bomb. And it all boils down to something super simple: how you strip a wire.
Just take a close look at the difference here. On the left, you see what happens when you kind of rock the wire strippers back and forth. It seems faster, right? But what you can't always see is that it often leaves this tiny nick in the copper. And that little gouge, oh, it's a huge problem. It's like a bottleneck for electricity, which creates resistance, and resistance creates heat. Over months or even years, that heat just builds and builds until it melts the insulation and starts a fire. Now, the right way to do it? It's actually so simple and clean. You just clamp down firmly, ease up on the pressure just a tiny bit, and then pull straight off. One smooth motion. See? That leaves the copper wire perfectly untouched, which means you got a safe connection that isn't going to turn into a secret hotspot.
All right, let's move on. We're heading to the nerve center of your home's electrical system, the fuse board. This is a place where a really common shortcut, usually done just to save a couple of seconds, can lead to a major fire risk.
They call it double tap-in, and man, it's a classic example of a dangerous shortcut. You're basically trying to force two wires into a space that was only ever designed for one. And because that screw can't clamp down evenly on both wires, well, you've just created a loose cannon right there in your fuse box.
And here's the problem in action. That second wire, it's almost always going to be loose. And a loose connection is one of the top causes of house fires, period. It creates arcing and some serious heat. The fix, though, is so easy. It's called a pigtail. You just connect the wires together first and then run only a single wire to the terminal. That's it. It's the only safe way. Just remember this: one terminal, one wire.
Okay, this next habit might seem tiny, almost totally trivial, but it's often the secret culprit behind one of the most common and annoying electrical problems: those mysterious flickering lights.
You know, it's so tempting to just line up the wires, shove them into a wire nut, and twist it on, right? But just look at the difference here. If you don't pre-twist them first, there's absolutely nothing guaranteeing that all those wires are making solid contact. It's basically a recipe for a bad connection that's just going to fail on you down the road.
So, here's the key takeaway. Twisting those wires together first creates a solid mechanical bond before the wire nut even goes on. The nut is really just there for insulation and a little extra security. This super simple 5-second step gives you a rock-solid connection that won't have you tearing your hair out trying to find a fault somewhere in the walls years from now.
All right, let's talk about a feature you'll find on most modern outlets and switches. It was designed to make installation way faster, but in doing so, it seriously sacrifices long-term safety and reliability.
These are known as backstab connections. You literally just push the wire into a little hole on the back, and a spring clip is supposed to hold it in place. No screws, no fuss. It's incredibly fast, which is why a lot of builders just love them. But that convenience, it comes at a really high price when it comes to safety.
And here's why. That little spring just gets weaker over time, especially as the connection heats up and cools down every time you use that outlet. The connection gets loose, and that causes flickering, power cutting in and out, and the most dangerous part, heat buildup right inside your wall. The screw terminals on the side, though, they create a secure mechanical connection that's going to last for decades. So please avoid the shortcut.
And now, we've arrived at the single most dangerous habit of them all. This one isn't about how you install something, it's about how you react when your house is trying to tell you something's wrong. This is the habit that turns a potential problem into an active emergency.
You gotta understand, this is a fundamental truth when it comes to electricity. Failures are rarely a total surprise. Your home's electrical system will almost always give you little warnings that trouble is brewing. The real danger is either not knowing what to look for, or worse, choosing to ignore it.
So these are the signs that your wiring is literally screaming for help. Flickering lights? That points to a loose connection somewhere. Hear a buzzing or crackling sound? That's the sound of electricity arcing, jumping a gap where it should never be. See burn marks? Feel that an outlet or switch is warm, or smell something like burning plastic? That means the connection is already failing and overheating. These are not just minor quirks, people.
And let me be perfectly clear about this. None of these problems fix themselves. They don't just go away. They are your home's final warning before something catastrophic happens. The second you notice any of them, the only safe thing to do is to go to your fuse board, turn off that circuit, and call a qualified electrician to figure it out.
Okay, wow. So we've just gone over 5 pretty serious dangers that could be lurking in your walls. But just knowing about them is only half the battle, right? Now, let's turn that knowledge into action with a simple checklist to keep your home safe.
And here it is, your 5-point safety plan. Each point directly fixes one of the bad habits we just talked about. I want you to think of this as your new mantra for electrical safety, okay? Strip, clean. 1 wire per terminal. Pre-twist your connections. Always use the screws, not the backstabs. And please, never ever ignore a warning sign.
And that brings us to the most important part of all, what you do next. Don't just hear this and file it away. I want you to think about your own home right now. Do your lights ever flicker? Have you ever noticed the weird buzzing sound coming from an outlet? So I'll leave you with this question to really think about. Which one of those warning signs will you check for in your home tonight?